book is refreshingly honest about the emotional challenges of faith. A ton more could be said about this book. I hope you will listen to it. How not to read the Bible is perfect for a small group, and it is ideal to give to a non-believing friend so you can discuss the content together. Sean McDowell. Prelude. Becoming Atheist by Reading the Bible. Reading the Bible is the fast track to atheism. Penn Jillette. Sitting on my desk is a printed email from a university student who, after growing up in a Christian family and being active in his church, is no longer a Christian. The email lists several reasons why he went from being a Christian and even a leader in his campus ministry to becoming an atheist. It's not an angry email. The student isn't disillusioned by the church, and when we later met in person, he told me that he had a positive church experience and is thankful for his former youth leader. He didn't leave the faith because of boring preaching or irrelevant worship music. He told me he left the faith because he finally got around to reading the Bible. Yes, reading the Bible led him to become an atheist. Before going away to college, this student regularly attended church and he listened to sermons every week. He attended church Bible studies for many years. He knows all the popular Bible stories, Daniel in the lion's den, David and Goliath, and many others. He loves Jesus' teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, where he talks about not judging others and giving to the needy and loving your enemies. When he left to attend college, however, he began reading parts of the Bible that he had never read before, stories he couldn't recall ever being preached or taught in the youth group and church he grew up in. The more he read, the more questions and objections he had. I found him to be an extremely intelligent, friendly person, open to discussion and kind and positive as he spoke about his church experience. He shared that after being active in his high school youth group, in college he joined a study group with an on-campus Christian ministry. They chose the Old Testament book of Exodus for their study, but as he read it and studied it, he noticed things he hadn't seen before, things that horrified him. He encountered disturbing, crazy-sounding Bible verses, and it was his reading of these verses that shook the foundation of his faith. Why is it okay for God to kill children like King Herod did? In an email to his campus ministry leader, he listed verses from Exodus 4:21 through 23 as an example. They cover the story of the last of the 10 plagues God visited on Egypt, the plague where God instructed Moses to tell Pharaoh, "Because you refuse to let my people go, I will kill your firstborn son." And in Exodus 12:29 and 30, God followed through on that threat. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. After reading this, the student wrote in his email, "I was devastated to think a loving God could predetermine the death of so many of the innocent." When we met, he said it's ironic that Christians recoil in horror and anger when they read the New Testament story of King Herod's trying to kill the newborn Jesus by killing all the boys 2 years old and under who were living in Bethlehem and nearby at the time of Jesus' birth. Christians rightly see that as a horrendous act of evil, a massacre of toddlers and infants, and they see King Herod as wicked and heartless. Yet he never hears Christians complain about the Exodus story. Why is it okay for God to do the same thing King Herod does, but with Egyptian infants and toddlers? Why is it wicked and evil when Herod does it, but acceptable when God does it? Slavery and magical underwear. As he continued reading Exodus, the student found other disturbing verses. He mentioned Exodus 21:20 through 21, which reads,